Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you for watching. I've got you guys an update on some very active times that are coming up, as well as the potential for a few winter storm systems to move across the United States. I've got you guys an update on a big pattern change that's really going to get going as we get into February, because right now we are drawing towards the last few days or really hours of January. But just to get started here in this video, we're taking a look here at your current radar. And you can see we don't have much going on, but we got two things happening, two minor things. All right, one, you've got a clipper system. This is a very minor clipper system that's currently moving across the Eastern U.S. This is just an upper level low that's bringing a lot of, not a lot, a little bit of snowfall and some moisture out into the Eastern United States. All right, nothing much. Maybe some snow, like light to moderate snow flurries out there. Maybe in Ohio, extreme western PA, maybe even around the New York City metro area, but some rainfall, some heavy possible down here into Georgia, the Carolinas, and just the backcountry of North Carolina. We're actually starting to see some snow mixing with that rainfall. All right, that's going to be pretty much it for the Eastern U.S. The rest of the United States is dry, but the Western U.S., we've got a pretty big storm system coming in. We're going to be talking about an atmospheric river that is currently impacting the region. Well, it's one of those waves that's impacting right now, which is currently visible on your screen. All right, so we're going to start to see more heavy rain become widespread in this area, and I've got the latest details and all of that coming right up. All right, so take a look here at your alerts. You can see that we've got really nothing much to talk about other than out here in the west, where we do have some wind advisories, which is interesting, but this is going out for portions of really the coast of California up towards southwestern Oregon. This is the northern half of California, but the coastline that's under high wind advisory. Now, high wind warnings in this gold shade going out for south central portions of Oregon and to northern California. In the pink shades, you've got winter storm warnings. Some counties out there into Nevada are under winter storm warnings. In Southern California, you've got flood watches. All right, winter storm watches for portions of the lower Sierras into portions of Nevada, but really nothing other than that. And it's just going to be very windy along the coastline. We'll talk about the winds. But, other than that, we're really good for the most part. So taking a look here at your this is the GFS model. We're taking a pretty extended look into the future because I really want to get through this atmospheric river because this is going to be a very impactful one. All right, so to start things out, this is a pretty good point in which we can tell where the moisture stream is. So an atmospheric river is usually a train of storms that is associated by tons of moisture that come out from most commonly the Pacific Ocean. What we see here is we see a big system coming in. You can see these ice bars are tightly packed, circulating around, which would be a low pressure, which is currently out of the frame. But that's going to be moving onshore by tomorrow. And what you've got is you've got a moisture stream that's moving up like this. It's moving up to your northwest. And so we're going to see areas down here in the southwest stay dry, and areas in the northwest are going to get very, very wet, and we're going to see a lot of precipitation in this area. And notice how on those alerts where we see where we've been seeing winter storm warnings, flood alerts, and also wind alerts as well, that's right in this area, which is right in the path of this moisture stream. All right, so notice that this is the direction that these storms will be moving in. But if the low positions up here, like we see with this storm, then we're going to see areas way up here into Washington State become impacted more. But since the bigger system, everyone's going to be involved. All right, so let's get here into this model run. We're looking at the GFS model. Here it comes. It's a 961 millibar low. That's incredible, guys, how strong this is going to be. This is going to bring very high winds. I can already tell. Just very monstrous moisture load with this system packing strong winds and torrential rainfall. It's going to lead to flooding out there in Northern California, really all the way up and down the coast from anywhere on the coast of Washington State all the way down to Northern California. And bam, there you go. Got a 963 millibar low pressure system that's just slamming the west coast. You've got torrential rainfall all day tomorrow out there in California. This is midday tomorrow. We're going for very heavy rainfall out there. This will start to weaken the system, but this precipitation just gets very heavy right around Northern California, right on the coastline. Look at that heavy snow mixing with that heavy rainfall. That's an issue that we're going to talk about. Mudslides going to be a big issue, but flash flooding, guys, that's a huge thing that we're going to talk about. So you still got a 972 millibar low that's packing strong winds. You got cold air that's trying to push this to the south and west. All right, and so that's why we're going to see some of these areas towards the south become impacted because it's just a huge system, and because of that cold front that's kind of pushing down here, driving the storm is being driven southward. All right, it's because of that cold front. That's why we're seeing the precipitation shift farther south. So now Central California gets hammered here, and the Sierras really just pick up a lot of snow from the system. And there it goes, and it's breaking apart a little bit, starting to weaken. See that number is going up. That means that the low pressure is becoming high pressure. I wouldn't say high pressure, but it's definitely a weakening system. And I've just got a lot of energy flying around out there into the entire Western U.S. really, and you'll just pick up a shower or two, some really just cloudy and rainy weather for everybody in the Western United States by Friday, and then by Saturday, here comes your weekend. We got another system coming in. This is actually the same low that's been hanging around with this system, all right? Because this piece of energy, it's starting to shift over to the west. We're going to see a transfer of low pressures. We're going to see this one kind of hang around with its own central, piece of energy. This other one is going to break off, and it's going to try and form something in the central U.S. that we'll talk about in just a moment, all right? But here it comes. There's that 996 millibar low. It's definitely not going to be as strong, but it's still packing strong winds. And now this one's going to try and position farther north, but there comes another system. It fails to do anything really, but there's still a lot of energy in this area, but this looks a lot more concerning than what we see up here. All right, so now we have a 996 millibar low that's moving with that moisture stream right up towards central and northern California. This is shaping up to be around Monday to Tuesday, and there it goes. And guys, there's so much moisture that's perfectly placed right along the California coastline. Just watch how intense the intensification with the system. It goes from a 991 millibar low to a 976 millibar low in less than 24 hours. That's insane. It's just because of how favorable these conditions are. All right, but you can even see the ridging going on here. By the way, this is gonna be this may be the storm that brings the strongest winds out of all of them. But you've got a ridge starting to bump up on that on the cold air because just of how much moisture and warm air this is just bringing up from the Pacific Ocean, and that just slams all of California except way down there in Southern California. But the Sierras once again getting multiple feet of snow. The coastline seeing tropical storm conditions, but everybody's just getting battered with heavy rainfall, strong winds, and that's incredible how strong that gets. And we see this hang around for a few days. We're getting now into Monday, all right, of next week, and this is really. We may end up with two major storm systems in the next 5, 6 week, about a week out. Once we get to February 5th, which would be Tuesday to Wednesday, we're going to be dealing with maybe two massive storm systems. All right, but what happens next? Well, we're getting pretty far out, so we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but we definitely got a good signal at this point, and we see another system coming up, but notice how the moisture stream it's changed now. That's going to show you that there is probably this atmospheric river is going to come to an end. We go from seeing a consistent moisture stream moving up towards California, and we noticed that we were much more active when we had that moisture stream than what we have here. And so now we see the complete opposite. This is coming down from the north and west. So this is coming down with a southwest flow, all right, and then that's just going to bring storms that are way up there into the North Pacific down to California, and there will be some strong storms with this. It's just I don't think the moisture is going to be as intense, but it does bring a system into California again, brings heavy rains, strong winds, with cold air nearby, so I think more snow will be in the picture, maybe getting into February, and then at that point it looks like the atmospheric river may come to an end, all right? So we look at your current projected. These are rainfall totals, and I honestly would I honestly was expecting more, but this is already too crazy enough. We'll take this out. We'll show you the first system. All right. So here it is. There's that first system. What do we see? Well, we see probably about 2 to 4 inches. Some areas we'll see 5 inches right around the northern California coastline up towards Oregon. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw 5 inches of rainfall. That's going to lead to major flash flooding in the areas that see the highest amount. All right, second push of moisture. That's where these numbers really get going. We'll take a look at the 24-hour accumulated precipitation. There we go. So here's the signal for the system. There it is. That's first one. This is we'll stop it right here. All right. Talk about really 2 to 4 inches. Some areas up to 5 inches. All right. Where's that second one? Well, there it is. Comes up and it brings a little bit less rainfall, but it still brings generally in the 2 to 4 inch range. But I really think one of these systems is gonna just overperform. If you go back here, look at that. I mean, that's crazy how much rainfall. And the reason why, one of the reasons why we may not be picking up on that much rainfall is because a lot of this will be snowfall for those upper elevations. But if you're on the coastline of California, you gotta hunker down. You gotta be ready and just stay tuned because you don't want to miss any information on this on these upcoming systems. But we'll go back to the total precipitation just to get this feel of where the most rainfall could come down. And we just see above average, written all over the coastline here. All right, but it's right in here. It's central and northern California, specifically the coast of northwestern California. This pocket, this corridor, that's where I'm expecting the heaviest rainfall. All right, but you still may see significant rainfall totals if we see low pressure systems rather if they don't come up from here, but rather up here. Because if the moisture stream is like this, then that low is going to bring just more moisture into this area. So that's how we're working here. That's going to be how we're working. But I think models are trying to put these lows farther south, which obviously is going to shape up to more rain into central California. But yeah, I mean that's what you got. If you're in the interior western United States, like back into Colorado, Montana, Wyoming, Utah, all these areas, guys, you're still going to probably end up with a few inches of rain from now to first week of February, but it's just you can even see it just these totals really just get going and they become amplified system after system. All right? So, now your wind gusts. This is a very concerning topic that we have to talk about. We already have, wind alerts, if you want to put it that way, in this area. But here we go, all right? This is a beast, guys. This is a massive storm system. This is, like, literally perfectly made up. You've got a massive storm system. I mean, this is incredible how strong this is, all right? So, this is almost like a hurricane, guys, because you've got low pressure, which is bringing very tightly packed, strong winds on either side of the system right into that low pressure center, and you've actually got two centers of the storm. This is actually already that splitting happening. All right, you can actually see it. You've got two centralized areas of low pressure, one here and one here. All right, so we'll talk about the front side of the system. When this comes in, you have gusts that may be gusting as high as 75 miles per hour, which is right up against Category 1 strength. So this is bringing widespread 50 to 70 mile per hour gusts, and that is enough to cause down trees. And even with the rainfall, too, it's just going to cause a bigger threat for trees down because the ground is softened up because of how much rainfall is coming down. So it's easier for the stronger winds to push down those trees and uprooted trees. All right. On the south side, you still got wind gusts really ranging from 60 to 70 at their highest. But everybody impacted by these winds will definitely see wind gusts in excess of 55 miles per hour. But this is the side I'm concerned about. This is that backside of the system where we're not seeing any land we're not seeing the storm become influenced by land here, and this is where gusts get very strong, still over 70 miles per hour, but this whole general area would be impacted by 50 to 60 and then up to 70 mile per hour gusts. That is crazy. But let's put this in motion, guys. Let's get this going. And do these winds make it on shore? Well, they're creeping up in Oregon. And here we go. We can actually see in Oregon these areas that are under wind warnings. I mean, we're not talking about anything crazy, but definitely 40 to 50 mile per hour gusts. And on the coast here, right off the coast of California, maybe even on the coast, we're right there, right about 50 to 60 miles per hour. But do we see those hurricane force winds make landfall? If I want to put it that way. No, but we still get wind gusts that get up to 50 miles per hour. And it's because the system is kind of shifting to the north a little bit. But I think that we're going to start to see some strong winds enter this area. We actually do see that happening a little bit. Some tiny pockets of stronger winds, really 40 to 50 miles per hour. But luckily, the center of that storm does not impact us, but it rather goes up to Canada as that low pressure, as we see that kind of split. All right, because notice how we have two centralized areas of low pressure. Well, that's going to split, and so really, the reason why I have strong winds onshore while the system was way out to sea is because you're going to have low pressure in this area as well. All right, so it's kind of complicated. It's kind of weird, but I think definitely if you're on the coastline, strong winds, heavy rainfall, that's going to lead to flash flooding. All right, so we now look here at the southeastern United States. I'm tracking a potential winter storm system that's caught a few people's eyes here. It's definitely caught mine. I've been tracking it for a few days now. Looking for maybe some areas will get lucky, I think, with this one. If we see the right, if the pattern, kind of shapes up right, we may be dealing with snow pretty far south. So what do we got going on? Well, we've got high pressure that's not even that strong. It's 1,025 millibars, and this is centralized over really the border of Alabama and Tennessee. That's not going to really affect any storm system if the storm system is not too weak, all right? Because that's not very high pressure. That's definitely a weakening high pressure, and that's going to allow for the system to come in. And then, remember, this is a system coming out of the west. We just talked about a very strong atmospheric river, so if you've got strong, like monstrous systems coming out of the west, who knows what's going to happen in the east. So here it comes, as a 999 millibar low. This is by Saturday, so you're getting into a weekend, and we're seeing a lot of heavy rainfall. These may be thunderstorms, though. All right, going up and down through Texas, portions of eastern Kansas, Oklahoma, and this is going to be sweeping across Eastern U.S. this trough, and it wants to take on a positive tilt here, and we actually do see a lot of heavy rainfall, though, getting all the way down to the coastline. This would bring very heavy rainfall with that low right in the middle of the system, and you just don't see enough cold air nearby. There could be cold air aloft, but I really just don't. I wouldn't count on it because this is coming out of the Pacific Northwest, and that's an area that's packed with moisture, and the cold air nearby, it's up there. All right, so really, the only hope that you have for cold air is cold air aloft. So if this were to play out, it's kind of too late for cold air to dive into the system for it to feed into the system. It's simply bringing up too much moisture, and you can actually see that on the isobars. There it is. There's a little bit of a ridge, a slight ridge going up to the southeast. And quickly, I want to take a look at the Cape levels just to make sure that we're not dealing with any, severe weather. All right, and they're low. All right, I don't see any high Cape levels, but I think there's a slight chance for some severe storms out there into eastern Texas on that line. But otherwise, I wouldn't expect anything, severe weather-wise. All right, but that is moving out, and very quickly, we do see a pocket of snow start to develop right around the North Carolina-South Carolina border. So I think that areas near Charlotte, South Carolina, may get lucky and actually end up with very wet and light snow. All right, but nothing that we're talking about with accumulations. And then this low makes its way off the coast by Tuesday, and we see this start to strengthen, and it hangs around the coast a little bit, but it kind of just moves on out as we actually do get a cold front starting to swing by down here, picking up the system. All right, it's this cold air feed. It's trying to come into the southeast. But I think that there's just too much warm air nearby that can really make it that far south. And we'll talk about the pattern a little bit after this. All right. So that's going to be it for the southeast. And now we will look at the pattern. All right. So we've been dealing with the pattern change that we're tracking here. I've been talking about in the past 2-3 days, or updates, I should say. And we're talking about a February pattern change that I think will definitely influence our weather pretty greatly, and I think that's gonna cause for more winter weather out there. So what do we got going on now? Well, you can already see that we kind of got a favorable pattern coming up. All right, because we'll start out here in the central United States. We'll make this clear. You've got high pressure. All right, you've got a big old ridge out there into central Canada. All right, and over the north central United States. But you see that there are tiny pockets of cold air trying to come down from our polar vortex here, and it's actually trying to get into that system. All right, we can actually see that happening right here. All right, but also if you look at the southern jet stream here, look how it's kind of opening up a little bit here. That's going to allow for more storm systems to move through this area. If you see blocking, which is it's marked in those warmer colors, that's high pressure. That's blocking. That's going to try and block any storms from entering that region. So once this opens up, you're going to see cold air and storms move through this area. And so when those two things meet, let's say they're going to meet right into here, you may actually end up with some wintry weather down in that area. That's what we could be talking about, all right? But notice how this all changes. We really don't see anything favorable for that yet, but this will change. Put this in motion, and there goes that ridge. It gets stronger over central Canada and actually shifts north. And now we start to see some more storms enter the southern United States. And so, does this continue? Well, that ridge actually gets stronger, but I think that there will be a slight opportunity for some. We've been tracking cold shots. I've been telling you guys that during the winter time, second half of winter, you usually get frequent cold shots that last about 1 or 2 days, but they happen in the northeastern United States pretty frequently, especially in the second half of winter. And what we see here is we see very strong high pressure. This is going to be stabilized out there into central Canada. You've got a nice southern storm track there, southern jet stream. All right, if these two things meet up, where we do see, we see cold air. All right, sorry about that. I'm kind of drawing around here. If we see cold air and storms meet up in this area, we could be talking about a snowstorm in the Mid-Atlantic, in the southern New England, and the Northeast. All right, so take this farther out. Where does that ridge go? Well, it stays put, and we see that storm. We got 3 storms at this point. This is a good example of what things may look like. We've got a very amplified southern jet stream that's kind of curving up to the north here, where we see storms take that track. But I just think that cold air is going to seep through right by that, just the high pressure. And let's say the high pressure, all right, this ridge actually builds farther west, and we see the centralized high pressure over here. That's going to allow for this area to open up, and we're going to see more cold air in this area if that happens. And that's possible, but it's just not what the models are showing now. And so we'll take this out farther into February here, and that ridge actually starts to move east. All right, that's going to block cold air from moving down in the northeast, and this is going to definitely allow for colder air and storms to settle in the south. But now this pattern really, it's after this big ridge. After this big ridge falls apart, if that happens, then we get to a big pattern change. What we may end up with is we may see, a kind of like a flip-flop pattern where you get one half of the United States that's above average and is seeing drier weather, and one half of the United States that's seeing colder weather and above average precipitation. All right, so that was the latest GFS run. I think the European model is agreeing for the most part on at least the first half of what we talked about with this pattern change, because there it is. It takes that ridge up and it builds it into the eastern United States, and I just still think that we are going to see some cold shots be able to move through the northeast United States. And so we look at our temperature anomalies on the GFS here. Starting out, you can already see with that ridge, we're very warm. We'll switch this to the North American side of things. Here we go. And so, yeah, you've got this entire area of Canada and the United States currently at above average temperatures, but just watch this. Watch how the southwest stays colder, the eastern U.S., and this is where our ridge is, stays warm. But look at this. This is your polar vortex here. This is your polar vortex. It's going to try and bring down cold air. You can already see kind of that cold air source start to come down from Canada. I think that it really just if this ridge can shift to the west just a little bit, all right, just a little bit, that's just going to allow for a little bit more room to open up there in the northeast and the eastern U.S. to, just for that cold air source to make its way down to us. But we put this farther out, and that ridge starts to take up the eastern U.S., and bam, this is when things may change as well. We see that flip-flop pattern where now the eastern U.S. is starting to become warmer, and that cold air can start to dive into the western United States. All right. So what we'll see is we'll see a positive PNA maybe and a negative PNA. All right. So it's possible, and I think that I think in the short to midterm February, I think that's what we may end up with. And if you look at other weather channels, all right, which I definitely recommend some. If you look at my homepage, I've got a few that I feature. All right, you'll see that they do agree with me that getting into the second week of February, we may be dealing with that pattern where we have one side of the United States colder and stormier, one side drier and above average with your temperatures. And finally, we take a look here at your current projected snowfall totals. We're not looking to see how much it'll snow from now to February 15th in your backyard. That's not what this is. We're taking a look at the signal, all right, for snowfall. Just where some areas will see above average snow potentially and where some areas may not. You could already see the western United States right off the bat. We're very active, and we actually see 34 inches of snow for the Sierras right there. So that's above average mountain snow. The rest of areas see above average, snow in the west. The northern United States starts to see a little bit of snow, but only, just not even that much. All right, I think that we may end up with a little bit of a shortage of snow here. All right, just getting through this pattern change, but I think times may become favorable for snow in the eastern half of the United States, even though, we don't see that on the GFS, but I think it could turn active getting into February and then beyond. All right, so that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for coming to watch. I'll see you guys in the next video. So, we'll keep watching this. I'll keep pumping out updates for you guys. Keep your eyes on that atmospheric river in the western United States. Please tune in more often if you are in that area, or at least check your local news stations for alerts and detailed forecasts on these storm systems, because I really do think that some areas will see dangerous conditions while these storms hit. All right, so that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for coming to watch. I'll see you guys in the next video.